you very much for coming on the show, Nat. It's awesome to have you here. Nathanial is director of Bibby Consulting, and he actually got over $400 million for his client from LinkedIn Strategy, so it's fantastic. And he has some awards from LinkedIn. He is a speaker and all that. Nat, it's fantastic to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Nat, can you first just introduce yourself, who you are? I mean, I said like a few things, but please, can you tell us what you do and what can you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I recognized the need about 8 years ago in Australia to start a lead generation agency and training company that specializes in LinkedIn specifically. I was in digital marketing prior to that, found that LinkedIn was the most effective way to generate leads. And since then, we've been able to post content, which, you know, I never really sunk my teeth into too much. I was doing a bit on YouTube. I was actually, when I was in university, I was a hip hop artist. So storytelling and being creative was something that appealed to me. And even writing articles as well as video content. I think that storytelling is a huge aspect of content marketing. And I really just practice, I learn through trial and error. Once something works for me, then I offer it to my clients. When it works for my clients, and I share it as content on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, YouTube's been really big for me lately. I'm very passionate about what I do. I think that marketing is very, you know, we never know which direction it's heading, but we know that it's changing faster all the time. And so to be at the cutting edge of the industry is quite exciting. There's never a dull moment.
Nat, we're talking about LinkedIn, about what is LinkedIn, why is LinkedIn important. But before we dive into that, I would like to ask you where your journey started with LinkedIn, because I think like many of us, you had a LinkedIn profile for some time before you start generating some real business from it. Can you tell us about your journey on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'd just finished up failing at a real estate business. After moving back from Asia, I ran out of money after about 8 months. And one of my friends called me up who had a web marketing agency in Perth. And he said, you're really good at sales. Would you be interested in going over to Melbourne and starting a Melbourne operation in web marketing? I've always worked in real estate, hadn't sold web marketing before. I said, look, why not? What's the best target audience? And he said, oh, if you can get plastic surgeons or cosmetic surgeons, they're the best. They know nothing about marketing. They got loads of money and they always need new leads. And so I was like, okay, cool. Wrote a list of all the plastic surgeons in Melbourne, tried door knocking, couldn't get past the practice manager that was at the reception desk, tried cold calling them, couldn't get past the practice manager again. And I was like, oh, what's this social media site that I signed up to recently, LinkedIn? And there's a profile picture of me at a nightclub going like this at the time. And I contacted 10 surgeons. I got 6 responses. I had 4 meetings and I made 1 sale. But it's the ideal target audience, right? So while other people in the company who had been doing it for years were selling websites for $3,000 or $4,000, the website that I sold that month was for $5,000 or thereabouts. And so, of course, the next month I just sent out more messages, and it wasn't long before we grew that company from 8 employees to 120. Had offices in every city in Australia, and that's when I left and decided to specialize in LinkedIn marketing.
Okay, that's a great journey. So obviously you are successful on LinkedIn, and you were successful on LinkedIn, and you grew from there. Can you tell us just a little bit about what do you think, who is LinkedIn for, and why is LinkedIn important in your business?
Yeah, sure. So it's about relationships, creating relationships. And obviously LinkedIn is about creating business relationships. I think that if you're looking to grow your career, if you're a student looking for, guidance, mentorship, if you're a salesperson looking to grow your business, entrepreneur, investor, raising capital, all these business opportunities, you know, if you contact somebody on Facebook and say, hey, I noticed that you're an angel investor, I'd love to catch up with you for a coffee. It's not really appropriate for starters. Whereas on LinkedIn, it kind of is. It's set up like that. So you look at their profile, you can read what their professional background is, you can see what business contacts you have in common. So it's definitely a networking platform. It amazes me today when people say to me, I say, how do you get your customers? They say, oh, I'm a member of Business Networking International, where they go to breakfast with 20 other business people every week, 20 people, and they've got 620 million members on LinkedIn that they could be connecting with every single day. And there's, you know, like, it's like networking on steroids with every protein shake you could possibly imagine. I love it. And I think the content side of it allows you to connect. So you don't just start these relationships and start these conversations, you actually build relationships en masse as well, which is incredibly exciting. And, you know, like the other platforms in social media at the moment, you kind of got to invest to get in front of people. Whereas on LinkedIn, they've made it so that the best content gets the most reach, and you don't have to spend $1.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually very interesting, because that's kind of like a segue to the next question, which I have for you. So what do you see are the successful strategies on LinkedIn?
So the first one is, well, it depends on your objective, of course, but like from a relationship building perspective, I think that a lot of people who have joined in the last couple of years go straight to posting content. I think the most immediate way that you can generate return on investment is by literally sending somebody a connection request saying, hey, I've had a look at your profile. I've noticed you know this guy, you know this guy. I'm interested in finding out more about your business. Can we have a conversation? That's a great way to set up all these conversations that could lead to business. I think what the mistake that most people who do that do is they go, okay, I'm going to message these people and my outcome is to get a sale. But your outcome should be to start a conversation, not to get a sale, because the reality is, like, you're not going to be able to help every single person that you find on LinkedIn. You got to find out if they have the problem you solve. The second strategy is content, which is, you know, like, it's a longer term strategy, and a lot of people want rewards overnight. You know, we're impatient, we're selfish, and you've got to add value. So like, it goes against our nature as human beings. Like, and I've had to learn this, you know, through just testing and everything. Like, at the end of the day, I've got to care, otherwise it won't work. I'm like, who's this post for? And so consistency builds trust. It's very much like dating, you know, like, it's all the things that you do right to end up with a ring on your finger, is the same things that you do with content marketing and thought leadership. But it takes a while. But after, like, for me, it took 2 years. And during those 2 years, it was extremely difficult to stay consistent, because all my peers would say, why are you posting all those videos for? Look at Nathaniel for posting these videos. It's like, thought I was doing it to get attention or something. And I don't know, maybe I don't know if I was or not. But after 2 years, what I noticed was there was no competition. Like, people stopped coming to me saying, hey, Nathaniel, we're getting quotes from 3 LinkedIn training companies. We'd like one from you. Now they're coming and saying, hey, Nathaniel, we follow your content. We're ready for LinkedIn training. What does it cost? And so you eliminate competition in the long run. And that's what building brand is all about.
Okay, so what I hear is saying that basically by engaging with the customers first, with figuring out who's your target audience, pinpointing that content to your target audience, engaging with the target audience, commenting on their post, building the trust, then you eliminating your competition, and you're the leading voice of the industry. Is that what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it very much is. And I think that when people come up with their content marketing plan, they do look at who their target audience is, but then they do this big mistake next, which is what they then work out what they want to tell their target market. You shouldn't be working out what you want to tell them. You should be asking them what's going to add value to their lives. Very, very, very different. And then you can evolve as well, because you look at what's content's working, not in terms of what did you get out of it, but like, what did they get out of it? Did they get value out of it? I look at content creators like Gary Vaynerchuk. A lot of the audience may be familiar with him, who talks about self-awareness, relationships, not caring what other people's opinions are. All three topics he didn't touch on at all when he started posting content. It was all about business. This all came from his audience. That's why he's so incredibly successful at content marketing.
Nat, I wanted to ask you another question, because I get to this question asked quite often, and that is, how often should I post in order to be seen by my target audience? What would you say on that?
Well, look, I was posting 5 times a day before COVID, and I have been posting the last week maybe once a day. This is the thing, right? It's like it's about how much value can you add, because if you posting one more time that day is going to detract from the value you're providing. It's going to lower your average, the value of each post. Then don't do it, you know. But if you can consistently add a certain amount of value every day with one post, do it, and be consistent with it. You know, like I do notice a big drop off in the number of profile views that I get when I stop being as consistent as I was before. It's not so much about how often I do it; it's about consistency. So the newsfeed, as you'll notice, like at the top, it says sort by, and the default is relevancy. So if you posted last week and it's the most relevant post to that person who's looking at the newsfeed, it'll show up at the top. It doesn't matter if was posted, you know, in the last hour or last week. If it's more relevant, it'll show up towards the top.
What do you see from your perspective is the best content which works on LinkedIn? Is it a short form, long form, text only, with a picture, videos? What is it?
It depends how good you are. Attention spans are extremely limited. On average, if somebody presses play, which most people would just read the caption and not press play, but if somebody presses play on a video, after 10 seconds, 50% on average are not watching anymore. After a minute, 80% are not watching anymore. So if you're going to post a 10-minute video, you've got to be awesome. Otherwise, just people aren't going to see it. Like, you know, you're better off chopping it up into 5 videos.
Yeah. What do you think about LinkedIn Live?
Look, I think that if you look at like TV or any form of entertainment, live is always like the most appealing to people. People like pay-per-view and Facebook and stuff like that. So there's that side of it, which I think is awesome. I think it's cool that you can interact with your audience while you're doing it. It's a bit delayed. The delay is getting shorter, which is cool. It's like 15 seconds now. It's because it's still in beta version, like we get naturally more reach, because I think people get notified in it that we're going live. So one thing I've noticed when I started like working out my live strategy was like, well, you know, all these content creators going live, who's being consistent? There's no consistency. Like it's still very immature. So I decided that every Monday night, no matter what, at 6 p.m. I would go live. And that has been like so challenging for me. Like I guess it's my personality, but like you can imagine, you know, it's like a long weekend. You just got back from the beach and you're like, oh shit, 10 minutes I'm supposed to be going live. But consistency is everything. So like turn the camera on, let's go, here we are. And we make it happen. And eventually you learn and you get a bit more prepared. I love live video at the moment. It actually has this is weird, but this is one of the things that the LinkedIn algorithm will work out pretty quickly, but it's actually had a negative impact on the rest of my content. If that makes sense.
Yes. Like
the live does well. So it shows all my lives at the top and it lowers the engagement on the rest of the content. LinkedIn will start to work that out. The algorithm is always evolving. I don't know if you've ever checked out their engineering blog, but like, wow. the amount of people and attention that they've got into making this thing serve us better content is amazing. So it's always changing.
It's interesting that you're talking about engagement and number of profile views and things like that, which which probably people are checking on a regular basis. What do you think about all this lion concept? You know, the LinkedIn open networking concept, which is flooding the LinkedIn right now, and many people, they are asking me as well. You know, what do you think about that? What do you personally think about this LinkedIn open networking concept?
Depends what your objective is. Like, to be honest, I'd imagine most people who are watching this are business owners and marketers and serious about their careers. In which case, like put it this way: if you had 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, full stop, that doesn't mean you could not pay your rent next week. Like, it doesn't mean it means nothing. But if you had 10 people that you could call up and you say, hey, I'm in your city, and they'd offer you like a dinner and somewhere to stay, and you have a real relationship with them, like that actually means something. So it's about having a relationship with people. Being an open networker is a little bit like being the, I can't use this analogy, can I? I was going to say, it's a little bit like standing on the corner and saying, look, I will serve anyone, because like you're not on LinkedIn to network with everybody. Like, how can you truly add value if you're doing that? If you're doing it, you're chasing vanity metrics, which is the number of followers. And the reason that people do that is for two reasons. One is it's so they can mislead people into thinking that they're better at what they do than they are. So it's very similar to like being a best-selling author on Amazon, but you're in like the medieval category with like, you know, your mum bought a copy, you bought a copy, and now you're the bestseller for that day. And you'll run around telling people, I'm a best-selling author, buy my book. It's very misleading. It's very dishonest. So there's that thing. And then there's also like insecurity. So social media brings out a lot of people who are insecure. Like, if you want attention, post a motivational quote on Instagram, bang, you've got it. So like, it's the same thing with number of followers, number of likes, number of comments. So like LinkedIn Open Networker, which is what LION stands for, is a way to achieve both of those outcomes that do not relate at all to business objectives. Very similar to engagement pods. And, you know, when I question people on this, like, I get a lot of pushback, because you got to understand this is related to people's identity. Like, they're like, no, LinkedIn's working for me. I have 50,000 followers. I get 100 likes every time I do a post. I'm really good at LinkedIn. But when they come time to pay their rent, or they comes time to, you know, pay their staff at the end of the month, they're having a moment where they're like, I don't know, they're not fulfilled at all, because it's not translating into return on investment. And it's not like I'm selfish and looking for sales all the time. I know I'm going on a bit of a rant all the time, rant at the moment, but it's not like I'm chasing sales. It's just that return on investment is a real measure of value, Like, connecting with somebody so they connect with you back is not the only value. There is you've made them feel significant and they made you feel significant. That's it. If you take away that connection, or you take away that like, or you take away that comment, there's no real relationship there, because there's no value being added. And so you don't actually even learn how to add value. So I really, you know, encourage people that if you want long-term success in business, to stay away from doing those things, because you miss all of the learning opportunities.
Interesting. Maybe we can start a new LinkedIn podcast, which would call Line Prostitutes, but I will cut this out anyway from our podcast. Don't worry about that. So I think that's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah, no, I'm totally cool with that. Like, it's the first thing that popped in my mind.
Okay. Again, you've been on LinkedIn forever, and you've seen it. I don't want to say I've seen it all, but you have a lot of experiences. Have you ever had any bad experience with LinkedIn, or some awkward LinkedIn conversation or something like that?
Yeah, I have. See, people think that women are the only ones that get sexual content sent to them on LinkedIn. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, and you got to wonder, like, you know, if someone's trying to get you in trouble or what's going on. That's got to be the most weird thing. I've had to block a few people because of what they call trolling as well. Like, there's some people that, like, I guess you call them haters, or some people that have a problem with you sharing your opinion or being out there. Sometimes it's that you're doing something that they are afraid to do. So I don't really like, I can't be bothered with that stuff. So I kind of block those people. I have been restricted from adding connections on LinkedIn about 7 times. Now, this is the reason behind that. At the start, it was just like, oh, okay, wow, I can add anyone. I'll just add all the surgeons I can find in Australia, and that's the first time. And then you get a slap on the wrist, and then I started to realize, oh, well, if we're doing this for clients, we need to know where the boundaries are. Like, how many connection requests can you send in a day? Well, we'll test it. We'll find out by using my account. And I think the last time I got restricted, it was like we were negotiating on like buying a LinkedIn recruiter license, which is 15,000 Australian dollars a year. And I'm like just about to sign. And I said to the salesperson, I got a condition. you got to lift the restriction on me sending connection requests. So, you know, it's not something that's the end of the world, but I've never had a client banned, which I'm extremely proud of.
Okay. Do you have anyone in terms of LinkedIn you follow, like your LinkedIn guru, somebody who you look up to?
Look, I don't know. I think that, like, I look at them as creators, which, like, I think you can learn a lot from a lot of most people. But in terms of like LinkedIn specifically, I like to follow Mark Boris. I like Jules Lund, who the founder of Tribe. I've like Sally Illingworth is a good creator. Like, so I get little bits of insights from all these people. I like Lisa Tay. A lot of these people I've interviewed as well, you know, collaborated with, and they all share one thing in common. They're all just adding value to their audience, you know. I consume content on other platforms as well, like Instagram, and I look at the way that they share their content and try. I think that because LinkedIn lags behind the other platforms a bit, sometimes you can learn a lot from the other platforms and applying it to LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay.
So like on Instagram, like by far, like Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, these guys are smashing it. Brooke Volanovic, who's here in Perth, on Instagram, is awesome. I mean, the list goes on and on. What's his name? Even podcasts. Like I love listening to podcasts. What's his name? The guy that does the Tom Biu. He's awesome. Yeah, Tom Biu. Check him out.
Okay. Cool enough. You touch upon that you're spending time on some other social media platforms. How much time do you spend on LinkedIn?
I spend. So this is the interesting thing, right? Because this might be why I'm posting less. Because before COVID, I had a rule. I stopped driving and I got Ubers everywhere. And so whenever I was in an Uber, I would do a post and respond to comments. And so that would happen like 5 times a day. And now I don't get Ubers anymore. So it's like, you know, but probably an hour and a half. I have some support as well. Gemma, who works with me, she's very helpful in managing my inbox, and like she'll help me sometimes engaging. Like if a piece of content goes viral, sometimes we need help, like responding to everybody. Yeah, so like I think you get to a point where you do need support. But if you do get to that level, then you need a whole new set of skills in order to maintain authentic relationships. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see any common mistakes people are making on LinkedIn? What would you say are the common mistakes people are making on LinkedIn?
Well, yeah. First of all, their profile. So the LinkedIn was originally set up as a Rolodex of CVs. So if you're looking to get more clients, a CV is not what you want your LinkedIn profile to look like. It needs to be in customer-centric language. You just need to be thinking about what the customer might be interested in and might be searching for. Get your photograph. Like, your photograph has to be professional. It has to. When I say professional, I don't mean it has to be in a suit and tie. I mean it has to be a good quality photograph. It needs to stand out from the crowd. I think a lot of people are like, they look at personal branding and they're like, oh, I've got to be like Gary Vee, or I've got to be like Nathanial Bibby, or I've got to be like Tony Robbins. And so they move further away from the actual goal, which is being authentic and finding, being who you are. Like, what makes people really connect with me and like me is like things like, I like hip hop, Biggie Smalls. I'm very honest about, my shortcomings. I'm very real about a lot of stuff. I think that those are the things that people connect with. I swear, my mum hates it, but I do that. But it's just being authentic, which makes people relate to you. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. And I think that at some point, it's okay to be proud of who you are. Like, I think, that's the ultimate goal. Like, if you're pretending to be something else on social media, it's a big no-no. So yeah, the next thing is like thinking that social media is all about you. Like, like LinkedIn trainers are very good at this. They all like do their presentation and they're like, so I did this and then I got this and I got that and I did this and I got that and I won this award and like, everyone's looking at it going, yeah, that's awesome, man. Well done. Like, that's so cool. What a cool story. But what do they walk away from it with? Like, it's about adding value. It's not about you. So like, if you think you're teaching somebody something, call them up after the lesson and say, what did you learn? Because if they didn't learn anything, you haven't taught them anything. It's not just about what you think it's about the value that is actually received at the other end, which has been a big learning curve for me. I'm very impatient. I talk quickly. I jump around a lot. I've had to learn how to deliver content in a way that people can consume it, so they actually get the value that I'm trying to provide.
Okay. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Talking about your personality, being authentic, and all that. Do you think that people should share some personal things on the LinkedIn?
Yeah. I mean, like, if you were at a networking function at the bar in the lobby of the Marriott hotel, for example, and you went up to a bunch of people in suits, like, what would you talk about? Like, because it should be the same thing. Like, it's not like you walk up to them and say, hey, I'm Nathanial Bibby. I can help you grow your business on LinkedIn. You should really sign up for a coaching call. Like, of course not. I'd be like, hey, how's it going, guys? Did you watch Man United on the weekend? I don't know. But like, it would be more personal than that. And I think that we got to remember that it's people on the other end, and try and start a conversation, not try and get a outcome or a sale or whatever it is that the ultimate, end game might be, because you're not trying to get a sale. You're trying to have a conversation. And if you're in sales, like, you never want to sell to somebody unless you've heard from them that they've told you they've got a problem that that you can solve. If you start selling to them before that, you just come across as needy. You come across as somebody that doesn't care who they do business with. You lower your value a huge amount. It's like being a doctor, right? It's like being a doctor and me jumping on a call with you and saying, you need to buy the cure for coronavirus. I can cure coronavirus. And I will go on about it for an hour. And at the end of the hour, you're like, I haven't got coronavirus. What a waste of time.
Yeah. Yes, actually, it's very, very interesting that I think we, all of us, we kind of sometimes we tend to become very salesy, even though we don't know about it. We are leading people to our products, and we think that people are not stupid, but people are pretty smart, right? Like, you feel that the questions are leading you somewhere, that at the end of the day or at the end of that question is some kind of sale or conversion or something, and you're just trying to wind people in your net or whatever.
Yeah, it's very much a mindset, because like I'll message somebody and I'll say, hey, I'm interested in learning more about you, what you do. Let's hop on a call. And they'll say to me, what are you selling? You know, they message me and say, what are you selling? And I've literally looked at my client's inbox and they get that question too. And they write back and they're like, oh, well, I'm selling this. It's like, and so when I get that question, like, I'm like, well, I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to work out if there's an opportunity for me to add value to what you're doing or not. And those people like who get those messages, send those messages, and some of them end up buying. A lot more of those guys end up buying than the people that don't push back. So it's a mentality. You don't want to sell to people. You just want to find out if they have the problem that you solve, and if they do, it's your responsibility to help them. Like, they want to solve the problem. People, if they have a problem, they want to buy because they've got a problem. They want to solve it. It's like, if my floor's dirty, I want to buy a broom, right? I just don't want someone to come and sell me a broom without explaining to me what it does, like, or why I need it.
It's actually very interesting. I had a conversation just not long time ago with someone, and she was telling me that what she does whenever she posts the content, she's really looking for the people in that comment section, express some kind of need, some kind of difficulty which they are in. She jumps on those and she offers them free, free added content or advanced content which they can help them. And only based on that, she's building those relationships, which then leads to conversion or some kind of sale. So I think we were talking about Gary Vee, or we both of us like Gary Vee. He's talking about this jab, right hook, right? So I think now it's more than ever, not just jab. I think it's even more than that. Yeah, that you need to really give, and only then. Or maybe even more than that. I don't know. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, yeah, it's jab, right hook. But the right hook, like, it's not like Gary Vee says, it's an ask. You ask for something or you promote something. But the way I think about it is like, it's like value, massive value. Like, it's so massive that they pay for it, because if they don't pay for it, they're not gonna get the value. Like, you tell me, like, you go to a restaurant and you pay $500 to take your wife out for dinner. Are you going to appreciate it more than if you paid $50 for the dinner? Like, you probably will. Like, if you go to a seminar, you pay $1,000 to be at a seminar. Are you going to take more notes than if you paid $100 to be there? Probably. It's an indicative measure of value. And people, if they don't know who's the best, they'll often pick the most expensive because they just assume that they're the best. I do it when I go grocery shopping, right? I'm terrible at grocery shopping. I hate grocery shopping, right? And so when my girlfriend says to me, get some Greek yogurt, I don't want to get the wrong one. So I was like, which one's the most expensive? Okay, that'll probably be right.
Nat, thank you very much for talking to us. But very last question, which I wanted to ask you, I don't want to take any more of your time. Last question, which I want to ask you. Imagine that there is somebody who is just starting on LinkedIn. What would be your advice? How to start on LinkedIn?
Okay, so the first thing is your photograph. Like, that's the most important thing. Get all of the things that LinkedIn suggests that you do to get your profile to what they call like an all-star status. I think it's about 7 criteria: education, experience. Just complete that stuff that they ask you to. And then you want to grow your network over 500 plus connections. And start with the people that you already know. They may not be your clients or potential clients. They may be your mum and dad, and they may be your lecturer at uni, but you start building your network, your second degree network will grow, which means you can access all of their referral networks, which is where the opportunity is. And once you get over 500, the LinkedIn sort of says 500 plus. There's a huge herd mentality. Like, people want to be connected to connected people. The conversion rate when you send a connection request, when you've got 499 connections, is 30% lower than when you've got 500 plus connections, just because people look at it and go, oh, well, other people think he's all right. You know, I'll follow the herd. Like, it's just massive herd mentality. That's why that's why people get lost in the vanity metrics of followers and stuff like that, because they assume that everyone's going to follow them. But what's going to happen is you get this attention, but you don't build any trust. And so you always need to get new attention. The only way to build an audience is you get the attention, build trust, you keep the attention, then you get more attention, build trust, you keep the attention. That's how you build a real audience, attention and trust. And so if you keep those two things in mind and you focus on what's in it for the people that you are connecting with in the audience that you have, rather than what you're trying to get out of it, then in the long run, you will do really well on social media. But look, you can't do anything wrong. Like, everything that I know, I've learned by doing things wrong. So even when you're doing things wrong, you're well done. Like, well done, because most people are trying. If you're failing, you've done something better than them.
Fantastic. Now, thank you very much for talking to us today. It was awesome. Please, can you tell us just where people can find you?
Well, yeah, of course, they can find me on LinkedIn. I also dump a lot of long form content on YouTube. So search me up there. And the Nathaniel Bibby podcast is starting to take off as well, which is pretty cool. I'm a big believer in making the most of your time. And I think audio while you're exercising and all that sort of stuff is really valuable. So I'm getting all my best content onto Spotify, iTunes, and all that sort of stuff at the moment. But yeah, look forward to connecting with you guys. I do my best to respond to all of the messages and comments and tags and things that I do get, and appreciate all the support. And wish you nothing but success.
Thank you very much once again. It was absolutely fantastic to talk to you. A lot of wisdom out of Australia. It was excellent. Thank you very much for your time.
No worries. Thank you.